Hello and welcome. Tonight, we step across the threshold of a house that has become a legend. It is a place where the chilling reality of a true crime bleeds into the supernatural horror of a demonic haunting. A place that has spawned dozens of books and films and ignited a debate that rages to this day. But behind the Hollywood sensationalism lies a story of real death and alleged terror. This is the definitive deep dive into America's most notorious haunted house. This is the story of the Amityville Horror. Our story has two distinct, terrifying parts, and to understand the alleged haunting, we must first confront the brutal, undisputed fact of the massacre that came before it. The house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, Long Island was, by all accounts, a beautiful home. A large, three-story Dutch Colonial, it was the picture of suburban success. It was the home of the DeFeo family. Ronald DeFeo Jr., a successful car dealer, his wife Louise, and their 5 children. But behind the idyllic facade, the family was deeply troubled, ruled by the iron fist of the abusive and domineering Ronald Sr. Their eldest son, 23-year-old Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr., was a particularly volatile young man, locked in a constant, bitter conflict with his father. In the pre-dawn hours of November 13, 1974, that conflict reached a horrific conclusion. Armed with a high-powered .35 caliber Marlin rifle, Butch DeFeo Jr. walked methodically through the silent house. He went into his parents' bedroom and shot them both as they slept. He then proceeded to the rooms of his younger siblings, killing his 2 brothers, Mark 12 and John 9, and his 2 sisters, Dawn 18 and Allison 13. 6 members of his family, all shot in their beds. After the massacre, Butch showered, dressed for work, and left the house, dumping the rifle and his bloody clothes. He spent the day as if nothing had happened. That evening, he burst into a local bar, screaming, "You gotta help me! I think my mother and father are shot." When police arrived at 112 Ocean Avenue, they were met with a scene of unimaginable carnage. All 6 victims were found in their beds, lying face down. The investigation that followed uncovered a chilling and enduring mystery within the crime itself. How did Butch DeFeo manage to fire 8 shots from a high-powered rifle inside a relatively small house without a single neighbor hearing the blasts, and more inexplicably, without any of the family members waking up? There were no signs of a struggle. The autopsies found no sedatives in their systems. They had all, it seemed, simply slept through their own executions. Butch DeFeo's story changed multiple times, but he was ultimately convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences. The house on Ocean Avenue, now a place of profound tragedy, was put up for sale. 1 year later, in December 1975, a new family sought a new beginning. A newly married couple, with Kathy's 3 children from a previous marriage, Daniel, 9, Christopher, 7, and Melissa, 5, saw the house. The asking price of $80,000 was suspiciously low for such a magnificent property, and they soon learned why. Despite the horrific history, they decided to buy it. It was their dream home. They believed they could fill the house with enough love and light to overcome its dark past. They were wrong. Their dream would last only 28 days. Before moving in, the Lutzes asked a Catholic priest, Father Ray Pecoraro, to bless the home. This, according to their story, is when the horror began. As the priest entered the house and began to sprinkle holy water, he claimed to have heard a deep, masculine, disembodied voice boom, "Get out!" The priest, terrified, said nothing to the Lutzes at the time, but warned them not to use a specific second-floor room, the former bedroom of Mark and John DeFeo, as a bedroom, and to not sleep there. The Lutzes moved in on December 18, 1975. The phenomena started subtly, but escalated with terrifying speed. The house was plagued by inexplicable cold spots that would appear and disappear. Strange, foul odors would well up and then vanish. Doors would open and slam shut on their own. But the most infamous and persistent early phenomenon was the flies. The second-floor sewing room, the room the priest had warned them about, became infested with hundreds of buzzing black flies, despite it being the dead of winter. No amount of fly spray could get rid of them. The entity in the house then seemed to focus its attention on George Lutz. His personality began to change dramatically. He became sullen, angry, and withdrawn, a dark mirror of the abusive Ronald DeFeo Jr. He stopped bathing, and his personal hygiene deteriorated. He was constantly bone-chillingly cold and would keep the fireplace roaring even on mild days. Most disturbingly, he began waking up every single morning at 3:15 a.m., a time that later investigation suggested was the approximate time of the DeFeo murders. The children were also tormented. The two boys, Daniel and Christopher, began to have their beds levitate and slam to the floor. But the most famous story is that of the youngest child, 5-year-old Melissa, or Missy. She developed a new imaginary friend named Jody. Jody was not a normal imaginary friend. Missy described her as a demonic, red-eyed, pig-like creature that could change shape. She said Jody lived in the house and had told her that she would live there forever. One night, George Lutz claimed to have woken up and seen two glowing red eyes staring at him from the darkness outside the bedroom window. Later, when looking at a photograph of the house, Missy pointed to one of the quarter-moon windows and said, "That." Kathy Lutz claimed to have been levitated above her bed and to have seen red welts appear on her skin. George began to see a demonic figure with a hooded face and half of its head blown away. In the basement, they discovered a small hidden chamber, painted entirely red, that was not on the blueprints of the house. Their dog refused to go near it, cowering in fear. The terror reached its climax on the 28th night. The family claimed they were subjected to a final, all-out assault by the entities in the house. Loud, violent banging sounds echoed from the front door, as if it were being torn from its hinges. Furniture was thrown around, and ghostly apparitions moved through the halls. It was the final straw. In the middle of the night, on January 14, 1976, George and Kathy Lutz grabbed their children and fled the house, leaving behind all of their furniture, their clothes, and their possessions. They never returned, not even to collect their belongings. The story of the 28 Days of Hell at 112 Ocean Avenue could have ended there, a terrifying but private ordeal. But it was just the beginning. The Lutz's story reached the media, and soon they were connected with a famous duo of paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens, a demonologist and a clairvoyant, respectively, agreed to investigate the house. They assembled a team of researchers and a television crew, and in February 1976, conducted a séance in the home. The investigation was, by their account, terrifying. Lorraine Warren, a psychic, claimed to have been immediately overwhelmed by a demonic, inhuman presence. She had visions of the DeFeo family's bodies and felt a powerful sense of evil. During the séance, a photographer from their team, Gene Campbell, set up a camera with infrared film to take pictures automatically throughout the night. When the film was developed, one photograph stood out. It appeared to show the ghostly face of a small boy with glowing white eyes peering out from one of the doorways. Some believe it is the ghost of the murdered John DeFeo. Others claim it is a demonic entity.
Big boy photograph has become one of the most famous and debated pieces of paranormal evidence ever captured.
The Warrens' conclusion was absolute. The house was the site of a genuine, powerful, and dangerous demonic haunting. The Lutz's story was published in a best-selling book, The Amityville Horror, in 1977, followed by a blockbuster film in 1979. The house became a global phenomenon, but with this fame came intense scrutiny. Almost immediately, the story began to fall apart under the weight of skepticism. The central figure in the hoax theory is William Weber, Butch DeFeo's defense lawyer. Weber openly admitted that he, along with the Lutzes, had invented much of the story. Over many bottles of wine. His plan was to use the ghost story to get a new trial for his client. #@Meta, pause, sex 0.05. He claimed the Lutzes had an ulterior motive, to profit from a sensational book and movie deal. Skeptics and investigative journalists began to pick apart the claims. The priest, Father Pecoraro, while confirming he had a strange experience, gave conflicting accounts of the Get Out voice. Neighbors reported no unusual activity during the 28 days the Lutzes lived there. Subsequent owners of the house, including the family that lived there for a decade after the Lutzes, have reported no paranormal phenomena whatsoever. The Red Room, in the basement, was found to be a simple, forgotten storage closet. The iconic eye-like windows were a common feature of Dutch colonial homes, not a sign of demonic architecture. And yet, the story refuses to die. George and Kathy Lutz, until their deaths, stuck to the core of their story, insisting that the haunting was real. They both passed polygraph tests regarding their experiences. They argued that Weber's claims were false, an attempt to discredit them after a financial dispute over the book's profits. Proponents of the haunting point to the Warrens' investigation as independent corroboration. They ask, why would a family abandon their dream home and all their possessions if they were not genuinely terrified? The Amityville horror has become a modern American myth, a perfect storm of true crime, supernatural claims, and media hype. It exists in a murky, gray area between documented fact and sensational folklore. Was 112 Ocean Avenue the site of a genuine demonic infestation? A place forever stained and made evil by the brutal murders that happened within its walls? Or was it a brilliant, calculated hoax, a ghost story concocted for fame and fortune by a desperate family and a clever lawyer? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Perhaps the Lutzes, living in a house where they knew a horrific massacre had occurred, experienced a form of psychological haunting. Every creak of the floorboards, every cold draft, was amplified by the knowledge of the tragedy that had soaked into the very foundation of the home. Whether the demons were real or imagined, the terror the Lutz family felt was for them undeniable. The house on Ocean Avenue became a symbol for our deepest fears. The fear that evil is a real, tangible force, and that some places, like some people, are just born bad.